and always said it all the way through since that time. I knew that I was going to be ecstatic being in space. You know, it was my lifelong dream, and I knew that it was going to make me happy. But I didn't expect how incredible it felt. And I said that a lot to people, that it's even more incredible than I ever imagined. And I really meant it, because I had thought so much about it, and I knew it was going to be the most extraordinary experience of my life. But I wasn't even prepared for how I felt, the level of excitement and just pure joy that I felt all the time in that environment, pretty much the entire 7 months. I would find myself thinking, how can this be real, that I'm floating above the planet and looking down on it? You know, even after 7 months and, you know, knowing what we had done to get there and that I'd really worked for this my entire life, it still is actually hard to convince yourself that it's really happening, which maybe sounds a bit funny, but even after 7 months, it just felt that way looking down on the Earth. Wow, this is real. I'm up here floating above the Earth. When you're in the space station in the cupola, there are stars all around you, and you can really feel it that way. I think that's a good way to describe it. You feel like it's more three-dimensional and diffuse, and you know, you gaze off into it, and it is really just extraordinary to think about that scale, and then look back at the Earth and realize that we're just such a small component of that. This was really what had driven me since I was 5 years old, was what it was going to be like to have that feeling, to look back on the planet and you're not there. That's the place, the one place where everything has happened in your life, everything has happened through the entire history of the human species, everything you've done, all the places you've been, everything is down there in its entirety, and you're separate from that. It actually does feel different looking at Earth through your visor, just through your helmet visor, versus looking out of the window. I think the colors are even more vibrant, and I think also just mentally, psychologically realizing that, you know, there's nothing between the vacuum of space except for this spacesuit and your visor. There's nothing, you know, between you and it, and you're really out there in your own little mini spacecraft. It has the life support system, everything that you need to be kept alive, and it's just you. And you have this sense of just being by yourself in this environment with your own little life support system. And I love that feeling. I don't know what it is exactly about that, but I feel really kind of peaceful and relaxed in that. And in the spacesuit, you're looking down and seeing the Earth from above, from the outside, with your own human eyes. It changes you as a person. When you look back and you're in this blackness, devoid of any color, the blackness of space, and suddenly there's this brilliant blue glowing marble down there. It's so easy to see from up there that we're all in it together. You know, you don't see those geopolitical boundaries, all of the man-made boundaries that we've imposed upon ourselves as humans. You don't see any of that from space, and you just feel this sense of commonality more, and something that unites us all, and just that we're all human.
The bug for space really bit me when I came down to visit my grandpa down here in Houston. So I saw the big old Saturn V rocket sitting on its belly out there, and just thought, man, if humanity can do something this amazing, this awesome, I want to be a part of it. And I just fell more in love with the idea of space and being a part of something bigger than myself. The thought of actually getting to space, I couldn't wrap my head around that. You walk up to this rocket that's covered in frost from the cold fuel inside, and it's creaking and groaning and kind of alive, and you're like, well, that's pretty cool, but they're probably gonna cancel. It's just not gonna happen. You know, I've done so many sims, and it just can't be real. There's no way I'm gonna go to space. But then when no kidding, it lights off and you feel the rumble, and then you start to move, and that kind of just constant smooth acceleration, pulling you back in the seat. Everything comes to life on the panels. You see all of the things that you've seen 100 times in sims. In one instant, all of that I felt was unimaginable became real. And it was a magical thing I'll just never forget. You know, we're scientists and engineers and pilots and doctors. We're not poets, but we sure try to be, because you want to share as best you can the experience that you've seen and felt. I think I told my wife once I got on board that I thought it was
It's a burrito of awesomeness smothered in awesome sauce, baby. It's so beautiful.
It was just the beauty of being there yourself with your own eyes and seeing it. One thing that I would love to do while on orbit was, there was a window in one of the Russian modules that looked kind of out the back of the station. And I'd go sit there. I'd turn off everything, and you could get it really dark in there, let my eyes adjust, and just look out at the stars. And the stars, you know, the longer you sit, the more you see, and it becomes unbelievable. The number, the just billions of stars, the Magellanic Clouds, the galaxies that you can see with your naked eye. And they don't twinkle. They just stare at you. They dare you to come and to explore. It lights a fire inside your soul that is unlike anything I ever experienced before or since. And it's why you see astronauts, you know, they say 560, 580, I don't know how many people have gone to space. They're all the same. They all have that bug. And they all want to do everything in their power after experiencing that to make sure that humanity reaches its potential, that we get there, that we don't just see the stars, that we explore them, that we live there, that we grow into what we can be. And you're reminded of the incredible potential that we have as humans when we put everything else aside and just work together. And you feel a part of that, looking out the cupola and just being a part of thousands of people from across this globe that have put together this just palace in the sky for us to discover and learn and grow. It showed me the potential of what humanity can be when you work together as one team. It inspired me to do everything I can in my power for the rest of my life to enable humanity to evolve, to get there, to those stars that were staring straight in my face and daring us to come get them. That is something that you can never quench. It's been a couple years since I flew, and that fire still burns just as strong today as it will when I die.
I remember looking at the Earth for the first time just shortly after we had launched. We had a nighttime launch, and within 9 minutes or so, we're in orbit. And I remember seeing the Terminator, where the light meets the dark on the surface of the Earth. There's an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the experience that so few humans have had, to be off the planet and look down at it, and look down and appreciate how beautiful it is and how perfect it is. We're so fortunate to live on such a perfect planet, positioned where it is in the solar system, and that we know of nothing quite like it. When you're out on a spacewalk, when you're outside, your helmet gives you essentially a 180-degree view of everything around you. In my last spacewalk in January of 2020, I was riding on the robotic arm out to the AMS work site, and we were waiting for one of those leak checks in between, and there was a period of time when there was literally nothing that we could do, and so they parked me on the arm above, about 50 yards above the ISS during a night pass, and they were like, okay, you're gonna just have to sit here for 20 minutes. Without the obstruction of the atmosphere, without light being refracted, stars are much more distinct. They don't have that twinkle anymore. Everything is very crisp. And naturally, you see infinitely more stars and planets mixed in there that are sometimes hard to distinguish, but infinitely more. No atmosphere between you and it. And I was out there above the ISS, nothing between me and eternity. You can't have this experience and not be changed. It does affect you. But I think by and large is what you find that it reinforces beliefs that you already had, because that is our fundamental tendency to look for evidence that supports what we already believe. It reinforced the importance of stewardship of our planet and carrying those responsible practices with us as we go out and explore, return to the moon, go on to Mars to understand the origins of our own planet. It was an interesting time in those final weeks before we landed in April. We were watching this global pandemic occur. The magnitude of what was occurring on the ground was starting to become more and more apparent as the weeks wore on, and we knew it was going to affect how we arrived on the Earth, and that they were going to have to take different measures bring us home. We were asked to make a video that asked, what are your impressions of returning to the Earth during a global pandemic? And one of the things that Jessica and Chris and I did was we took some images out the window of the cupola, and I just spontaneously, while panning the camera around and taking some shots of my crewmates looking out the window, I panned along the Earth and I said,
an Earth in crisis is still an Earth worth returning to.
Just spontaneously, I don't know what made me say it. I think it was a good reflection of how we were feeling about, our time up there. We appreciated it, and we had a new sense of the Earth below us, and saw that the entire planet was experiencing this event that in many ways unified us all, in much the same way that the International Space Station unifies us all, and that we still desired to return to our Earth and all of its greatness and all of its problems. It's still our home.
How is the quality of the TV?
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. It really is.
I'm in first grade, and I'm watching Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin dancing around like every other kid who's out there watching this